You know what's a super annoying trope in comics that I cannot stand for the life of me? Besides Paul from the most recent Amazing Spider Man run. And that's when DC or Marvel tries to push down a new legacy character down our throats just to replace a classic, iconic one, just for them to get forgotten about just a few years later. And it always seems like these characters always go through the same cycle, where they're forced into being into every single aspect of the universe, until their book doesn't sell anymore, and the publishers finally realize that nobody really cares about this character. And at this point, they bring back the original version of the character that everyone loves, and it seems like nothing happened. And, the legacy character gets the occasional miniseries, maybe the ongoing that's secretly just a 10-issue series, but most likely gets sidelined to a guest star and other ongoings, and cameos in big crossover events. This cycle only really lasts for like a total of like 2 to 3 years. Now, even though this cycle is very repetitive, and is a little sad for the specific fan bases these legacies build up for themselves. The only two exceptions I can think of at the top of my head are Miles Morales and Kamala Khan. But even then, it's stretching it just a bit, because when was the last time you remember that Kamala Khan had a regular ongoing? Yeah, that's what I thought. But there is one huge exception to this cycle. One character who was first a sidekick to one of the most iconic superheroes over at DC Comics, who eventually took over the main mantle of the character and became a huge fan favorite character among fans for years to come, becoming the main version of the character for so many fans and casual audiences. And of course, the character I'm talking about is Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing. I mean, the guy's in my channel banner for shit's sakes. Of course we're talking about him. Okay, I'm just joking around. Of course it's Wally West. You read the title of the video. You saw the thumbnail. Of course it's Wally West, you ding-dong. Now, before we continue, I want to show you that only 0.8 of my audience is actually subscribed to the channel. So if you enjoy this video at all, then hit that nice, juicy subscribe button. It's for free, and it really helps the channel very well. Anyway, let's get back to this video after that super educational PSA. Wally West was first introduced all the way back in The Flash number 159 that came out in October 1959. And back then, Wally West wasn't really your typical Silver Age hero sidekick, who was just randomly inserted into the main Flash story by just casually hanging out with Barry. For some reason. Instead, he was given his own backup story, where he was the main focus with his own storylines and cast of one-dimensional characters that you'll never see ever again. And I have to guess, these comics were probably very relatable to kids in 1960s America, while, I don't know, they were throwing rocks at cars or something. Usually the regular Flash issue went with the main story, focusing on Barry Allen going on a date with Iris West, his on-and-off girlfriend. And then he got randomly interrupted by some random Flash villain. For example, let's say, Pied Piper. So Barry would fight the villain and eventually defeat him like 10 pages later. And eventually ended with him going back to his date with Iris and ending with her being pissed off at Barry for being late for their 12th date this week. Ha! Get it? Because he's the Flash and he's supposed to be fast and shit. Ha! I get it. Very clever, DC Comics. And after that, you had a Wally West backup story, focusing on his own shenanigans, where some issues Wally would be a ginger, and others he'd be a brunette. But hey, back then only like 1 in 4 TVs were actually in color, so I don't think anyone really cared. Anyways, let's flash forward about 26 years later to Crisis on Infinite Earths number 8, written by Marv Wolfman and drawn by George Perez. Now, why is this issue so significant? Well, read the damn tagline on the issue for once. And this is one of the most iconic comic book covers of all time. But why? Well, spoilers for a 39-year-old comic book. You've been warned. Barry Allen sacrifices himself for the DC multiverse. You know, typical Barry Allen stuff. Now, this event was very significant for mostly rebooting the main DC Comics universe, aka just making all the Charlton Comics and Fawcett Comics characters main continuity characters, because DC received them from all of their random, wacky lawsuits over the years. And at the end of this event, Wally West, yes, you know, this kid we've been talking about for a while now, steps up and becomes the main mantle of the Flash. And Wally West was the main Flash for casual 23 years before Barry Allen actually returned to the DC universe. Yeah, you heard me, 23 years. A whole generation of DC fans grew up on Wally West as the Flash. Imagine if legacy characters stuck around for like more than 2 years. Like, we had to deal with Amadeus Cho as the Hulk for more than 2 decades. There would be absolute riots at the Marvel Comics offices. Now, does that mean these Wally West Flash comics are bad? Well, of course not. This era of the Flash is probably my favorite, where Wally West is the main Flash. We had some absolute great writers take a crack at writing the Flash and hit it out of the fucking park. Writers such as Mark Waid, Grant Morrison, Mark Millar, Jeff freaking Johns, and so many other fantastic writers got to leave their mark on the Flash book and develop Wally West as a character. I mean, he even got married to Linda Park, his love interest, and she would eventually get pregnant and have twins with Wally. Man, Wally West has gone through so much character development that only Spider-Mans could only dream of. But yeah, eventually Barry Allen did come back in the year of our Lord 2008, and eventually we got his grand return to Flash comics in one of the most iconic Flash stories, simply titled Flash Rebirth. And this story is nothing short of fantastic. I absolutely love this story, and it's definitely a great jumping on point for Flash fans. I mean, this is where I started reading Flash comics. No, not Flashpoint. I'm sorry, but Flashpoint is not my favorite Flash comic. I'm sorry for you, specific person. You know who I'm talking about. You earned it for me. It was all you. But yeah, this story has kind of a little bit of everything for any Flash fan. We got Barry Allen, Wally West, Impulse, Reverse Flash, cameos from the Rogues, all sorts of staples of Flash comics. Fun fact, the first issue came out the month and year I was born, so in a way I am Flash Rebirth #1. Even though this comic is super fantastic and you should drop everything you're doing and read it right now, well, finish this video first. But it was kind of the beginning of the end for Wally West fans, because after this story wrapped up, we got a brand new Flash series, written by Jeff Johns and drawn by Francis Manapul, with a brand new #1, but not focusing on Wally, but instead focusing on Barry Allen. Which, you know what, it's fine. I mean, the guy did spend like more than 2 decades radio silent because he was dead. And this 12-issue series is a lot of fun. The first story arc focuses on the Rogues, and I really enjoy this story a lot. This even has one of my favorite Flash moments, where after an intense battle with the Rogues, Barry accidentally destroys an apartment building, but is able to evacuate all the residents of the building. And after that, Barry runs over to the library and reads countless construction books and rebuilds the apartment building in a matter of seconds. And if that's not enough, he even replaces a little girl's doll too, just for a little extra cherry on top on this nice little Flash Sunday. The series eventually leads into the DC event Flashpoint, and that comic eventually leads to a completely hard reboot for the DC Comics universe. And this led to the New 52 comic initiative, where DC had a total of, you guessed it, 52 titles. And yes, a good chunk of them did end after like 12 issues. Wait, what was the topic of the video again? Oh yeah, Wally West, how could I forget? Where is he in the New 52? Let's check, shall we? Let's get our magnifying glasses. Not in the main Flash title. Not Justice League. Maybe Teen Titans? Oh, nope, not that. Well, where is Wally West? It's like he doesn't have a single presence in this era of DC Comics. I mean, Bart Allen's still here in the Teen Titans series. Oh, sorry, I mean Bar-Tor. You know, the hit character who hasn't appeared since the Flash Looney Tunes crossover comic. A small price to pay, if you know what I mean. But not only in comics, but I feel like in all sorts of media as well where Wally West was forgotten about. Where we had the CW Flash show focusing on Barry Allen. And not only that, but also in the movies, with the Snyderverse having their own interpretation of the Scarlet Speedster, played by, And not only that, but they even took some of Wally's personalities and molded it over to Barry Allen, like Wally's quips and sense of humor, for example. So yeah, Wally West was completely forgotten about, worse than the middle child, and was replaced by this son of a bitch thanks to one piece of shit editor. Ah! Okay, I have nothing wrong with Wallace West. He's actually a pretty chill dude. He's a fun character, not gonna lie, and I like his inclusion with the rest of the Flash family. But, I mean, it is kind of confusing with him and Wally both being Iris's nephews. And I don't know, it's just really weird to imagine 2 nephews with the same name. But whatever, don't worry about that, because Wally West does return in DC Rebirth #1, written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Ivan Reyes. Besides this book focusing on teasing the future of the Rebirth Initiative, it also focuses on Wally West returning to the main Prime Earth. How? I don't know. Really complicated comic shit. Look it up. This is going too long already. The short answer is he's trying to warn his friends and family about something infecting the DC history. The problem is, no one remembers him, thanks to the reboot of this universe. It's okay, Wally, I still remember you. But before he gets erased in the timeline, he has to say goodbye to his mentor Barry Allen. And guess what? He also forgets about Wally. But before he disintegrates forever, a spark runs through Barry's head that reminds him of Wally again and saves him, and the two are reunited again. And damn it, what a great moment. Another reason why the Rebirth era slapped. Even though he wasn't the main focus of the main Flash Rebirth book, not to be confused with this Flash Rebirth, but he still made minor appearances every occasion, but he was the main focus of the Rebirth Titan series. I mean, the first story arc is literally titled The Return of Wally West. But this comic is spectacular, and is one of the few comic book issues that actually have made me cry before, like a little baby, because damn, this reunion is so emotional and heartbreaking. I'm not going to spoil this run though, but it is pretty spectacular. And the whole run is only like 35 issues, and the story arcs are pretty easy to read. Man, Wally West is in such a great place in the DC universe. Nothing can go wrong. Oh hey Tom King, why are you giving Wally West a knife? Yeah, this is a pretty good transition into the 2019 9-issue limited series event, Heroes in Crisis, written by Tom King and illustrated by Clay Mann. The story chronicles the aftermath of a mass shooting in the Sanctuary Rehabilitation Center, set up by Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. The Sanctuary is located in the middle of the United States, and was created as a means to help treat superheroes with mental health issues from earth-threatening events. Man, imagine that. The three are the protagonists of the story, alongside Harley Quinn and Booster Gold, for some reason. Off topic, but having those two in this DC event is like if there was a huge comic book crossover where the villains are Penny Plunderer and the Condiment King. I'm sorry, I love Booster Gold in anything. I can't shit on him. And this comic isn't very good. I'm sorry, Tom, this wasn't great. It's no Mr. Miracle, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so what the fuck happens is, well, there are two big deaths in this story, being Roy Harper and Wally West. But in a shocking turn of events, we learn that the killer is Wally West, after he killed a whole bunch of heroes with the mayhem of the Speed Force, after he was grieving his family. And you know, it would be totally fine if it was an accident. I mean, he's one of the best heroes in the DCU and has connections to kind of everyone. But he crosses the line when he runs away from the crime scene and stages Booster Gold and Harley Quinn, and does a lot of other messed up shit in the comic that would probably get me #canceled on YouTube. So yeah, character assassination at its finest. Okay, we're back to square one. Now I know it seems like us Wally West fans are cooked and there's no saving us, but don't worry, there's a light at the end of this shitty tunnel, and this leads very nicely into Wally West's redemption with the 2019 through 2020 miniseries, Flash Forward. And since this is supposed to be the redemption of Wally West, we need a legendary writer who has written some fantastic stories with Wally. So, who's the writer? Mark Waid? No. Okay, maybe Jeff Johns? No. Grant Morrison maybe? No? Then who writes this book? Scott Lobdell? Okay, not my first choice, but I mean, Scott Lobdell has written a good comic before. What has he written that's been good? Oh hey, Red Hood Rebirth was pretty good. Can't say the same about his New 52 Teen Titans run. Now, I have to be honest with you guys. I didn't read Flash Forward. I mean, I already suffered enough. I had to read Heroes in Crisis for a video, and then I had to take a break. I took 2 weeks off from writing, and I need this video out sooner than later, so please just give me a break. Please don't make me read a confusing and convoluted comic. Just let me read good comics like TMNT IDW or Invincible. I love those comics. I already plan on reading 60 plus issues of Zeb Wells' Spider-Man. Eventually. Anyways, this story leads him back to his status quo, with his family being back, including his wife and kids, after some good old-fashioned comic book status quo reset. That's what I like to call it. And the crazy part is, he's still the main Flash again. From 2021 to 2024, now in the present, he's still the main Flash. No, I'm not joking. Barry Allen has become the forgotten stepchild. And this was in the New Frontier era of DC Comics, where this isn't my favorite DC initiative. Most of the series are super forgettable. I mean, to be honest, when was the last time you heard anyone gush about Teen Titans Academy, or Mr. Miracle, the Source of Freedom? But thankfully, the Infinite Frontier Flash run does not fall in this category, because I love this series. It's so good. It's one of the first comics that I picked up on a regular basis in single issues. And man, it's too good. I think the first story arc is not the strongest, but it is a nice reintroduction to Wally West again. This series is super easy to compare to the Peter J. Tomasi Superman run. What I mean by that is that they bring back a fan favorite character back to their old selves and focus a lot on their family. And both comics are super fun and heartwarming. This comic first introduced me to Jeremy Adams, and he is quickly becoming one of my favorite writers at DC right now. His current Green Lantern run is so fucking fantastic, and he's going to start writing Aquaman in January. And I usually don't pick up Aquaman comics, but I'll do it for Jeremy Adams and John Tim. He's a really good artist. I mean, look at this man. This should go in a museum. Now, Jeremy Adams stayed on The Flash until issue 800, and even though he had more plans for the Flash family, he was kicked off the book because of another initiative, which of course meant another relaunch for the book and a new creative team. With a convoluted writer and an artist who draws Wolverine's shoulders more far apart than my crippling depression. Now, I could be pissed off about this and go on some super long rant, but I don't know. I'm happy for the fact that Wally West still has an ongoing and hasn't been replaced by Barry Allen again. Maybe I'll make the same video essay about Barry Allen 10 years in the future. That'd be a funny coincidence. And not only that, but Wally is the main focus of the recently announced Absolute Flash book. Yeah, I'm still talking about the Absolute Universe. Look, I'm milking this as much as I can. It's my best performing video for shit's sakes. And we've gotten a lot of super exciting details since we last talked about it back in December. Jeez, I need to post more often, don't I? Anyways, this book focuses on Wally West, which we already knew. And in this universe, he was the first Flash and was never mentored by Barry Allen because he never got his powers from the Speed Force. And I think that's such an awesome concept for an Absolute book. And I have no idea which direction this book will head in. And that's super exciting to me. So let's wrap up this video super fast, shall we? This era in DC Comics is such an interesting time to be a Flash fan right now, where we have an alternate universe book that sounds super awesome and a main continuity book that kinda sucks. But I'm so glad that Wally West is still the main focus again, and wasn't sidelined after Jeremy Adams left the book. I'm very curious what the future has in store for the Scarlet Speedster and his ever-expanding family, but whatever it is, I'll always love The Flash.